Here's Ole Miss quarterback Spencer Sanders. Here's what he says. This is Barrett Sallee, CBS Sports. Coach Lane Kiffin has created a quarterback Hunger Games of sorts by luring Spencer Sanders and former LSU signal caller Walker Howard to Oxford to compete with returning starter Jackson Dart. I get they signed both of them, but a little context is needed there. One's for the future. One was more for right now. But either way, Sanders is, he says, by far the most accomplished of the three, throwing for 9,500 yards and rushing for almost 2,000 in his 4 seasons at Oklahoma State. Plus, he led the Cowboys within an inch, literally, of winning the 2021 Big 12 title and possibly earning a berth in the college football playoff. He's the favorite to earn the top spot on the depth chart during fall camp. Now, hold on just a second. Where's that coming from? Not
the same. It's coming from the same people who brought you John Rice Plumlee will beat out Matt Corral.
He ends it, in fairness, to say at the very least he raises the competition level in the quarterback room, which is true. But he said that like as if that was a guarantee. Like he is the favorite. According to who? It's mystifying to me. Phil Steele put Jackson Dart as the starter in his magazine today. And, you know, the theme here is nobody knows, but I was a guest on a radio show last week, and I got multiple Sanders questions first, like, how does he fit in the offense? What's he going to do? Is he at, and I said, hey, guys, you're forgetting somebody. Like, there is a returning starter on this team, and the theme out of spring was he's dramatically improved and it's his football team. So, yes, of course, there's a chance that Sanders through the summer, and if he stays at Ole Miss, and there's conflicting thoughts depending on who you talk to on if he's going to stay at Ole Miss at all, there's a chance during camp that he wins the job. But this idea that he's the favorite is, at least from my perspective, not rooted in any sort of reality.
So if you think he's the favorite, making him the impact transfer makes sense. But you and I knowing what we think we know, that he's not the favorite and he's not going to be the starter, if you're an Ole Miss person, does that worry you that it's not one of the receivers, it's not one of the defensive players, it's this guy who may or may not even play a good bit this year?
And that's the easiest answer too, right? It's just to go to the transfer quarterback, whatever. I think the most impactful, or what needs to be the most impactful transfer, is Isaac Ukwu. And that's a name that a lot of people are like, wait, who? Who is that guy? It's the rush end from James Madison. First team All-Sun Belt guy last year. They need him to come in and play right away. I mean, that's more important to me than quarterback. Because regardless of what Spencer Sanders does, if he stays, if he competes, if he wins the job, whatever, you know what your floor is at quarterback, and that's a good floor. Jackson Dart 2022 is a good floor for a quarterback. Can he be a lot better? Sure. Do they need him to be better? Yes. But you know that that's not your position of weakness on the team. But defensive line, getting to the quarterback, if you can't do that in the SEC, it does not matter who, if it's Sanders or Dart. And so they need, if it's not Ukwu, it's one of the other defensive linemen, but focus on him because he's the most important one. If he's not impactful, if he can't acclimate and play and be good, then they're really going to struggle. And that also goes for like Stephon Wynn, for example. I mean, other guys that they've signed, but he's the most important because he's a guy that they need to get to the passer, which they did not do well enough at times last year.
I'm with you. I mean, especially, you and I talked about this on my podcast today. We talked about the Egg Bowl and we talked about Ole Miss and are they going to be better defensively? One of their, and last year, I mean, Troy Brown was a good player, but not a difference maker, in my opinion. They need a difference maker to step up from that transfer portal class. So if they don't have that, I don't know, man. Yeah,
no doubt. Let's scroll down. Let's skip a few. Get to Mississippi State. Freddie Robertson is a guy that the State fans that I talk to, nobody mentions him, and maybe that's just because he signed a while ago or whatever. But
it's because he wasn't here in the spring. He's not a spring. He was not a spring enrollee. So the fact that he's been out of sight, out of mind. But he is a guy who will come in and push for a starting position on the outside. I think the outside receivers, your top two guys coming out of the spring are probably Justin Robinson and Jaden Walley, and then Roberson's going to push them for one of those spots.
I'm excited about it. I'm curious because, Eastern Washington's really good, right? And he's got the stats that back that up. And so you've got film on him playing college football. And so you feel comfortable, or you should feel more comfortable about those guys translating because you know what they can do at this level as opposed to catching passes against little Timmy who's got trumpet lessons because his mom makes him after practice. It's a little bit different. But still, will he translate to the SEC? Does that game go from that level to this one?
And his time at Eastern Washington, when they played big teams, he had good games. So, he played against some good competition and was able to play well. And then when he played against FCS competition, you saw his numbers. I mean, huge numbers.
Yeah.
So that you hope that will be able to translate. The good news for State is if it doesn't pan out, they're not totally reliant on him.
Yeah.
It'd be a great piece to have if he pans out. But if he doesn't, you still feel good with Wally Robinson and the rest of your wide receiver core.